crazy story. We got to start off today's episode with SpaceX. This guy was just walking on his property, minding his own business, doing his own thing, when all of a sudden he comes across a piece of a rocket ship the size of a punching bag, like a 5 foot long by like 3 foot wide, just piece of a spaceship on his property, lying on the ground. It like sunk down like a couple inches in the ground, and this was in Washington State in the U.S. This was a really crazy story. So essentially what happened is a pressure vessel from the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket stage fell on a man's farm in Washington State last week. Size like a punching bag, couple feet, like 5 feet long by 2-3 feet wide. And this essentially was something known as a COPV, Composite-Overwrapped Pressure Vessel, which holds like helium and pressurized gases inside of it. It came off of the Falcon 9. Essentially, when the rocket launches, it goes, the first phase, second stage, and while it was getting thrusted into space, the second stage, pieces normally break off. They either usually burn up in the atmosphere or they can fall into the ocean. But this time, the piece fell onto a man's property in Washington State. A Grant County, Washington property owner. He said roughly the size and shape of a punching bag. He found just a part of a rocket, looked like it could have been from an alien ship. This is the way he described it. It was on his property just sitting there. He called authorities. He's like, what is going on? Why is there, what is this thing on my property? And can someone come and get it? So the law enforcement, they've never dealt with anything like this before. They don't have any sort of protocol or anything to do. So essentially, they called up SpaceX. They're like, hey, we got your rocket. We got something that we think is yours. They sent some pictures over. SpaceX said, yeah, that's ours. And what happened is SpaceX came by, sent some employees over to pick up part of their rocket and return it to them. Law enforcement was just like, we don't have any protocol, so if it's like we found your thing, so now we're giving it back to you. But this was a really crazy story because this thing, the COPV, stores heliums at pressures of 6,000 PSI, which helps to propel the rocket into space. Normally, these things don't land, especially out of all places in the world, for it to land in Washington State, pretty close to, one of, SpaceX and one of Tesla's main facilities in California. A little unusual, but that is what happened there. A little puzzling, but it's not typical for this to happen, but it did.